Having been unrewarded for a fine performance at the weekend, the Blues deservedly bounced back with a welcome win over a familiar foe last night. As ever, columnist and Chelsea season ticket holder Giles Smith was on hand to cast his eye over an eventful few days. We think of victory over Tottenham, of course, as one of life's more dependable pleasures, always a joy, and a joy undimmed by repetition, something to rely on when you need a lift, or at any other time, for that matter. But even against that ultra-familiar backdrop, last night's win felt special. It felt special for a number of reasons, not least the manner in which it was achieved. A team painted widely as being in mutinous disarray staged its second display of busily committed coherence in 4 days. Rudiger, Kovacic, David Luiz, Pedro. There were energized performances all over the place, and from players whose muscles had been put through the rigors of extra time only a few hours ago. N'Golo Kante played like 3 men. And, unfortunately for Tottenham, all 3 of them were N'Golo Kante. Moreover, a defence broadly written off after the 6-0 defeat at City has now played 3.5 hours of football against 2 top 4 attacks without conceding a goal, and, last night, without even permitting a shot on target. Yes, you could say the second goal came out of nowhere, at exactly the right moment, and in slightly embarrassing circumstances. But it's what you want from your strikers, isn't it? They can be practically invisible for the best part of 85 minutes, but then make that one telling contribution that secures the points. Incidentally, did Trippier, to use the terminology, give Lloris the either? A friend of mine thought so. I wasn't close enough to be certain. Either way, it was one of those finishes which will play in the cinema of the memory for years to come, complete with its own popcorn. Overall, this was pretty much the perfect salve for the disappointment of getting the short straw in the lottery of the penalty shootout at Wembley at the weekend and the attendant drama which has attracted so much attention since then. Misunderstandings obviously abounded in those final seconds of the match on Sunday, and they have certainly abounded in much of the coverage of it. Which is only to be expected, because, just briefly there, it was a confusing scene. My personal misunderstanding, watching Senior Seri disappear down the tunnel, from my seat just to the left of the goal at the Chelsea end, was that he had quit and that, consequently, we had just witnessed a managerial resignation, live in the stadium. Which, let's face it, isn't something you often see. Not even Kevin Keegan resigned live in the stadium. Indeed, according to the book by David Davis, Keegan tendered his official resignation from the England job in 2000 in a toilet cubicle in the Wembley home dressing room directly after England had been defeated by Germany, the cubicle providing some hastily improvised privacy for their sensitive discussions. Of course, last Sunday my misunderstanding didn't last long. A couple of seconds later, the manager re-emerged from the tunnel and rejoined the group. At which point my interpretation necessarily changed and I decided that he hadn't resigned at all and that it must just have been a venting moment. We've all done it, haven't we? Relations will be round at Christmas, say, and the tension will reach a certain level, and you'll find yourself quietly stepping into an empty adjacent room in order to let some of the frustration go by kicking a solid piece of furniture there, or screaming silently into the palm of your hand. And then you go back in, kind of relieved, with nobody any the wiser, and the occasion continues. A friend of mine, who found his job and his working environment extremely frustrating, used to report going out to the car park at work and shouting as loudly as he could, before returning to his desk. He reckoned it made him feel much better about everything, and I'm sure it did. It's a simple coping mechanism. At Wembley on Sunday, I put Seri's brief disappearance into that category. Frustration had built and he needed a moment, away from the public gaze, to vent, knowing that he would feel better if he did so. And he found that moment in the tunnel. Much better there, surely, than taking it out on a crate of drinks bottles or against the side wall of the opposition's dugout or on Mike Dean, which are among the ways that other managers have chosen to vent their frustrations recently. and for which you can sometimes end up getting fine JavaScript :_do post backseat low $o main content slut update D, or worse. And then Backseri came, and on we went.